Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
You know what movie I watched last night that I haven't
What
seen,
did you-
I want to say I haven't seen since the 90s.
Okay.
And it's from the 90s, let's say that. And it's animated in live action all at the same time.
Cool World? I'm just
Not
guessing.
Cool World.
Okay.
Cool World's okay. That's one of those movies.
It's
it
okay
should be
World.
amazing, yeah.
It's Okay World. It's
It's
not
got
Cool
Brad
World.
Pitt and it's got what's his name directing it and writing it.
Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah. So it's like it should be an amazing movie. It's not. It's definitely not nearly as good as Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But no, the movie I watched was Space Jam.
Holy fuck.
And
That is like one of the pinnacle. That's like one of the most defining '90s kids movies. I cannot believe I was running through my head which ones could it be. I'm surprised that was not number like 2 or 3 to pop in my head because I was like that was my favorite movie for a total of like a year.
well, you think about it. How many live action / animated movies are there? There's really not a whole lot of them, and I'm not counting CG. Like it has to be like kind of like, classic animation, 2D animation. Even though I'm watching Space Jam, and I feel like there is a lot of CG in that, but
I was running through my head of what it could be, and I was just that movie. I'll say this: keep in mind, I was a pudgy white kid, so still white, not as pudgy, but still white. But
that part doesn't change.
That doesn't change. That doesn't change, believe it or not. No, but
so like you fell into like a vat
that
of
movie
acid,
actually,
and all of a sudden you came out with like an afro and blackness.
The reverse Joker.
Yeah, instead of becoming the whitest man on earth, he became the blackest man.
No, that movie actually inspired me to want to be a basketball player for about 6 months. So that's pretty good for being a Warner Brothers like animated movie. For like a total of 6 months, my life goal was to be like Michael Jordan, to be a basketball player. But then I realized, I'm gonna have to get in shape. I'm gonna have to work out really hard. I'm never gonna meet Bugs Bunny. We're never gonna be friends.
And I'm never gonna be Michael Jordan. Like,
so what's the point?
Nobody can be Michael Jordan. I remember when that movie came out, I went and saw it for my birthday, and I just remember that being just such a big thing. It was just like, oh my god, fucking Space Jam, Looney Tunes, Michael Jordan. And that theater was so packed that I remember some of my friends had to sit on the floor. Like, that was just how crowded it was.
That was the first movie I saw 3 times in the theaters.
And then I remember watching I got it on VHS, and I watched a bunch of times. Or I think I had a tape copy of it from, like, pay-per-view. Because back in that day, that's when I used to, like, get the pay-per-view and then tape it. Have like the hobo copy of it.
Yeah, it's harder to do that this day and age. And the space, or actually you probably could find if you got on your computer like on demand or something, or like VOD. I'm sure there's probably some kind of like
1997.
I know. But I'm speaking today though. I said
yeah.
hard to do that.
I actually bought a copy at the flea market. That's where I found it at for $1.
VHS or video? VHS
it was on
or
VHS. I saw one on video or for DVD. It was like $6. I'm like, if it had special features,
$6.
I'm not gonna pay $6 because I'm like, I'll probably watch it once and then I won't watch it again for another 10 years till I forgot what the experience was like.
Yeah, there's actually what was I gonna say regarding that? Yeah, that was like the first movie I saw like multiple times in theaters, and it was also. I want to say something regarding that. Like, I want to say what started that movie. There was a Nike commercial with Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan, and that just responded well. So one of us was like, "Yeah, make a fucking movie. Kids are fucking stupid. They'll see it."
Well, it is one of those movies. It takes like Michael Jordan was, even though it was kind of towards like the end of his, I guess, like big basketball career, but it was still everybody knew who Michael Jordan was, And then it was sort of a comeback for Looney Tunes, because if you really think about it,
right around the 90s, right around before that movie came out, they were playing Looney Tunes all the time on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, and they had sort of like the new kind of shows, like Animaniacs was out, and Tiny Toons and things like that. But Looney Tunes sort of like there wasn't really. I can't even think what the latest like Looney Tunes thing was like. I want to say
there was one called before I moved, I watched a few episodes of it with my nephew, and there's one called
no, not new now, like 97, 95, that time period.
There was the show Tasmania, which is just about like Tasmania.
Yeah, where he had like his uncle or
yeah, I think it was just called Taz. It was either Taz or Tasmania, and it was just about
his dad would always call he would always be like, "Oh, nothing like a good old glass of OJ."
That's right. And he had like a brother and a
And I remember
sister.
just as a kid being like, "OJ Simpson, he's drinking OJ Simpson." Because like you know that point when you're a child and really
The
everything
glove did
everything can
not.
only have one name. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the second that I like the first time I ever heard the word OJ, it was OJ Simpson, not orange juice.
Well, the sad thing about that was I didn't really know of O.J. Simpson as this like famous football player that everyone loved it before that. I always thought of him as I just learned of O.J. when I was a kid. Oh my God, O.J. killed someone. Like what O.J. do? Who is O.J.? I thought O.J. I actually thought of it as orange juice. So I was like, what orange juice do? Why is everyone so pissed off at orange juice all of a sudden? You know.
Well, you know,
That's I really did not know. I never knew that someone could be named OJ at first. I didn't know. I would, I was like, God, I must have been like probably 5 or 6 when all that shit was going down. So I had no idea of him being like this famous football player. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? So, but yeah,
dude, they actually made a 2-disc special edition of this movie.
I want to say Cisco has it.
No, he just has the regular one.
Oh, he does.
Because I would have noticed that if that was the case. I looked at that when he got it.
God, I'm getting like
It's got
so many
fucking
flashbacks.
commentary tracks. It's got a featurette and everything on there.
Please tell me Michael Jordan is on the commentary track.
I would like to know. It doesn't say who's on it.
Commentary. That wouldn't surprise me if for like the very good, big special edition, if they had like some people come in and voice the Looney Tunes or something, and talk as it. I wouldn't surprise me the least bit if they had something.
Oh
like that.
yeah, like a Looney Tunes.
Kind of like Spinal Tap. You know, there's like a Spinal Tap audio commentary.
Yeah, where they just kind of like that one's hilarious.
I'd like to hear kind of like the Beatles do an audio commentary on Yellow Submarine, like. We were frying so hard in this scene right here. Ringo wouldn't come out of the bathroom for hours. You know?
The weird thing about Yellow Submarine, though, it's actually like the Beatles aren't technically in
That's
that.
not even them.
No, yeah,
That's
it's like other people do the voices in that movie. It's more just like they sold their like likeness.
That seems kind of like shitty, though. I mean, I'm not trying to be this guy.
When I kind of heard that too, I was kind of like, oh, well, it's like you guys are already fucking actors. You've been in, or I guess at that point, 2 movies prior. Come on.
They were almost the Hobbits in what would have been Stanley Kubrick's Lord of the Rings.
I remember. Oh yeah, I know that would have been awesome.
Do you know who would have been who? Do you know who was going to be like?
I'm assuming John Lennon probably would have been Frodo.
Really, I could have seen him going the opposite way, like George being Frodo.
Oh, something like that.
Maybe George, because George always seemed a little bit more of kind of like. He'll fit into place. He's not really like the most assertive one. I mean, clearly he did fine after the Beatles ended, but I mean, he always seemed kind of a little bit more the most chilled, laid back one, but still, you know what I mean? So I always
George kind of actually made the best music afterwards. It's almost like nobody let him write at the time, but then the second he was out, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I had all this music written this whole time that I'm just going to release in a ginormous 3 LP set and whatnot.
And not that I dislike him, but John Lennon, his solo stuff, I don't really care for it that much. Not that I think it sucks, it just doesn't really do a whole lot for me.
But
majority of it.
Speaking of like the Yellow Submarine, though, I just want to say this is the reason why. I remember it said this in special features. Why they didn't have the Beatles do the voices? They thought they all sound too similar to each other.
Well, you know who's talking just from looking. It doesn't really fucking matter. Not like that movie has a deep, involved story anyway.
Oh yeah, you're there just to like see some cool animation and like listen to some Beatles music. I mean, really, come on, like, not like we're there for anything else.
I remember walking into a Suncoast one time, and every so often, they'd have a movie. They'd always have like something playing on like the television screen in there. They had Yellow Submarine playing in there, and I was just like taken back. I was like, what the fuck is this? I'm like 12 years old, and I slowly just kind of back out and had to go the other way. Like, I'm not ready for this. I don't know what's going on.
It's frightening for a child.
Well, yeah, it was like
if you really don't know anything about the Beatles, it's just that's a weird fucking animation.
Well, you know the Beatles at that age, but you don't know like, well, all right, like Love Me Do. Yeah, I didn't know that. No, like Love Me Do, and like. Can't Buy Me Love, all that stuff. But you don't really know a whole lot about the Beatles by that age. At least I didn't. So I walk in, and then there's a part where, like, the Blue, like, I want to say the Blue Meanie says the line, like, take some nasty medicine or whatever. He's, like, pouring it down, like, some dude's throat, and he's laughing right into the camera, like, what the fuck? I had to back away, and it was like,
it was crazy.
I'm not ready for this. I had to come back later, and then that's when they're singing, I was looking for some anime movie at the time, but that's when, like, they were singing, like, what song were they singing at the All You Need Is Love? Is that what they're singing at the very end of the movie?
I want to say so. It's been a while since I've seen it. I know that song's in the movie, I'll tell you that, but I can't remember if that's the last one. But I want to say that probably is.
And the weird little green thing that like they sing "Nowhere Man" to, that thing is suddenly bouncing on like the lap of like one of the blue meanies.
Well, it's like they
It's
kind of
like
go to
this-
this guy and they just start singing this like shitty song about this guy. When you really break it down, it's just like they're all like four guys going bowling this poor like sad man that lives alone.
That's kind of what happens really when you think about it, because he really is just kind of like, hey, I know we just met, but we're just going to totally harshly judge you and criticize your whole fucking existence, even though we only met 5 seconds ago.
Here's the Beatles, so we're going to sing about it.
Here's a pre-ready song. Here we go. That thing's just like, what the fuck's wrong with my life? What am I doing?
I've lived out here
four
for
guys that just
10 years. Nobody's ever showed up before. And all of a sudden, these guys show up, and not only are they harassing me, they're singing about it as they do it. And how shitty my life is because I'm out here by myself.
Fuck, this is college all over again.
Dude, I'm looking at the Space Jam poster. I know exactly why I saw my birthday. It's on the exact day, November 15th.
Oh, that makes sense.
I remember that being that movie being so huge when it came out, though. I mean, it captured everything that kids liked. It was like, it had cartoon characters, Looney Tunes, had Michael Jordan, and then they like that music in there. Because I remember just like when watching the movie, just all those songs, it was just like fucking like flashbacks instantly. It's like you heard that music throughout the entire 90s.
I wish I still had it, but the first CD I ever bought was the Space Jam soundtrack.
I got the cassette of it, and I was trying to look for it today, and I couldn't find it.
That was the first CD I ever bought, and I remember 3 of those songs I kind of would always listen to. Everything else was just kind of like whatever, but I remember 3 or 4 of those songs I would always listen to. One of which was the Looney Tunes rap that's at the very end of the album. That's not actually in the movie.
Huh.
There's one where it's just
that, but it's like that soundtrack I probably haven't listened to for 15 plus years.
It's more nostalgia than anything. I'm not going to say. I mean, I do like that cover of Fly Like an Eagle, but I don't remember who.
I think it's Seal that does that, which really Seal was like bringing in all like the chart records like at the time, because they had that song in Batman Forever, like the Kissed by or Touched by an Angel.
Mm-hmm. The U2 had another one, but yeah, there was the other one.
Oh yeah, but that was like the big song. It was really weird. It's fun. It's funny because it's like the second song in the credits, and for some reason that was like the big hit song.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it was like halfway in the movie, when Two-Face and Riddler are running around or something like that.
And the Offspring's also in that one too.
Yeah, when Robin's driving around the car.
I want to say the Flaming Lips or something are in that movie as well, but that's not. I don't know that soundtrack as well. You think I would since it's Batman, but I remember Smash. I just
that
Space
Seal
Jam
just was on a bunch of Warner Brothers pictures.
That has to be. They had to be kind of like in Warner Brothers recording studio or their recording label or something like that.
Yeah, he has to be part of that for some, because they just tied him into all these movies.
Yeah, and I remember there's that one song. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, but there's that one song, like, I will go and bring you the moon. Do 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 do. That they like, it's like, what was it? It's like, for you I will. That was like the main chorus of the song. I remember like, this song is technically, this chick is basically Michael Jordan singing the Looney Tunes. The song's actually a little too deep for being about Space Jam. Because somewhere in the song there's a lyric. I remember because I loved that song when I was a kid. It's like, for you, I will lay down on the line. And then like some, I think, overlapping lyrics, and then like somewhere in there, for you, I will die. It's like, this is way too emotional for being a song about Michael Jordan
and Bugs Bunny
playing basketball with the fucking Looney Tunes right here.
I see here that this movie cost $80 million to make, and it made $230.5 million back. That's a lot of fucking money.
They're bouncing around recently with the idea of Space Jam 2. Originally, they're going with like who, LeBron. They're going with LeBron, but then they backed away, and Space Jam 2 still might be happening, but I don't think they're going for LeBron. They're going for someone else. Which, would they still do the Looney Tunes? Because I mean, it's one of those things. Like I grew up on Looney Tunes. I love the Looney Tunes, but do kids this day and age really know who Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck are, really?
Well, I will say, though, once again, I think Space Jam was sort of a good comeback for the Looney Tunes, because, yes, they were playing they're doing reruns of Looney Tunes, which they still do that today all the time. I see that on Boomerang and whatnot. But there's nothing too. I'm not too sure if there's anything like out there to just saying like, hey, this is brand new. This is new Looney Tunes stuff. Check it out. So I think if they did a Space Jam 2, it would kind of bring Looney Tunes back full swing again.
There is one. I actually saw like 2 or 3 episodes of it with my nephews before I moved. It was called just like the Looney Tunes show, but it was a lot more because the original ones that we all grew up on and our folks grew up on, those ones were just kind of like very random for no real reason. Bugs was in space all of a sudden, or they're in the medieval times, and it was just kind of taking these characters, plopping in wherever. This one seemed like more grounded. It had more like a set of rules. Like Bugs and Daffy were roommates living in like suburbia. Yosemite Sam was their neighbor. I mean, they still dressed and looked and acted like the characters. They just had
it was almost like Friends, but with Looney Tunes.
It was actually funny. I'll say the 1 or 2 episodes I saw where, I mean, it's nothing I gotta like. I feel the need to watch every episode of.
It's not like you gotta like whoa Monday 8:00 at night. Looney Tunes. That's my show.
No, it wasn't.
Friends.
Yeah, no, by the way, did I mention the intro has them all dancing in a fountain? Yeah, no. Actually, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia had like the greatest like parody of like of Friends, like making fun of their intro. They were playing like a parody version of the Friends song, and they're all dancing in the fountain. But then what ends up happening is they just start pushing each over. They start violently fighting in the fountain. One of them's like trying to like strangle the other underwater. And like you see like you hear cop sirens, and you see cop lights. They're all just running like, oh shit, Well, probably really would happen if you were doing that, but no. No, it was like, I don't really remember what happened as much. I remember it being kind of funny, not like hilarious. Like, oh, that's actually better than some of the other shit I see for kids this day and age. It was like, Taz was basically their like dog. And they would something would be going on, and they, like pretty much characters are there. They just somehow would fit into like whatever, some kind of thing going on in town somehow,
So it was just a bunch of Looney Tunes characters living in an apartment complex. Was it right?
Not all living in an apartment, just living all in the same town, and whatever the story would be would somehow like bring them all together in some way.
Yeah, so they probably thought they're like, well, because back in the
kids can't handle just random shit. We actually got to make it more story based.
Well, back in the day, because you'd watch the Looney Tunes when it came in theaters. It wasn't like people watched it on TV and it wasn't a television show. It was just like, oh, there's a new Warner Brothers movie coming out. Hopefully they have another Looney Tunes thing going on, because just in case the movie fucking sucks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you were getting a lot more bang for your buck back then. You could be paying $0.25 or $1 and be getting like the news, Looney Tunes, some like adventure serial segment, and then the movie. So
yeah, and then sometimes there'd be like a short or like a PSA and stuff like that too. Even though when I look at that, I'm like, what? Were people fucking at the movie theaters every single time for like 4 to 5 hours at a crack? But then again, I guess if you don't got TV.
You probably didn't have shit to do.
Oh yeah.
Maybe back then, I mean, it makes me sound like probably such a shitty millennial. Back then, like you probably didn't really have a whole lot to do. You already got done painting the white picket fence like how many times that week,
Well, yeah, it's just like this is so funny. Like they didn't have shit to do. They didn't have like Call of Duty, and they didn't have like fucking space or Looney Friends to watch.
I'm sure they got more creative. I'm sure if like someone older from that generation heard this right now, they probably want to fucking kick my ass. But and I would understand why. But really, I'm thinking, really, okay. Well, being a kid in that
day, like, yeah, well, we had World War II. What do you mean we didn't have something to do?
Well, when you weren't killing Germans and what else?
You wouldn't sit at the movie theater for 5 hours.
Yeah. Well, I'm also guessing you probably went out and
watch.
Let's think. You probably would binge watch at the movie theater.
Because movies back in the day were let's longer than they are nowadays. Lots of times.
We're kind of like, all right, I'm being a little too broad here. I don't mean people in general. I mean kids. Okay, kids of that day and age. Let's say 5 to like 14. By that, or 5 to probably 12. Probably. Let's see. What'd you have to do? You had a
get out of here.
Here's a nickel.
Get the fuck
go down to the corner store. Go grab yourself some of them funny books. You can go down to the movie theater. Did your paper route? Yeah, you didn't cleaning the painting the white picket fence for the 5th time this week. Okay, Is the radio flyer wheel fixed? Okay, yeah, I'll go to the movies. Go watch that.
Dad time.
Just gonna sit and listen to the radio.
I don't know. I think they should make a second Space Jam, though. I think that's what it's all getting around to. I just think, and I say that for the fact that I think the Looney Tunes just need to come back.
If it means them having a comeback, cool. All right.
Because, I mean, obviously it's not going to be made for our generation because the only generation we have is fucking Space Jam 1. Because I watched that movie and it just, like, it transported me back. Like, I was there in 1996 all over again. It was just like, I fucking, like, the second because if you would have asked me 2 days ago to, like, try to say scene for scene what the movie was, I would have been like, well, I remember parts, but I don't really remember the whole thing. But the second I saw every single scene, it was just like, it all came back to me. I was like, oh, I know this. I remember this.
I think if I think hard on it, I bet I can remember every scene. I remember just Bugs' delivery of, like, when the Michael Jordan, I wonder if those were really Michael Jordan's kids that saved him from the dog.
I'm kind of guessing they were, but I'm not too sure. One thing I want to know is, like, okay, when it shows Michael Jordan in that movie, he's living in a pretty regular house. He just looks like he's, like, upper middle class.
They probably did that to make it more relatable.
Well, yeah, because you look at the house he's living in, it just looks like, I mean, like, still definitely somebody who's pretty rich, making over $100,000 a year, but, like, looks like he's just...
kind of like how Bill Murray comes in the last 20 minutes, no explanation.
No, he just, like, shows up. And then he has a line. He's just like, oh, well, I'm friends with the producer of this movie. And then I think
something like
somebody like Bugs looks over and is like, that's the way it always goes. Or I think it might have been Daffy Duck.
Something like that.
Well, it's funny too, there's also like a Pulp Fiction reference in that movie too.
Well, it was the 90s. I didn't get that when I was a kid, but I remember because I loved that movie when I was a kid. My parents, they thought it was dumb, but you're like, yeah, it's great. My dad grew up watching Looney Tunes, and he still thought it was fucking stupid.
Pulp Fiction. I think my parents thought Pulp Fiction.
Well, they laughed on that. The Pulp Fiction part. that's the one part both my parents, when we watched it at home, that was one part my parents all, like, cracked up on, was the Pulp Fiction bit.
I remember seeing Pulp Fiction once it came out on video. Or on TV, maybe. I'm not too sure. One of the other.
I didn't get it then. I figured it was something over my head. But yeah, it was 90s. It was right when Quentin Tarantino was getting big and all that. So that whole part makes sense.
But I don't know. I will say, like, going back and watching it, like, I still enjoy it. Like,
I'm sure there's enjoyment to be had. But
yeah, it's like,
there is actually a line that I think is pretty clever. Who was it they were playing golf with? That other basketball player. I don't remember
Larry
his name.
Bird.
He wasn't Larry Bird. I do like that line. That actually, like, Bill Murray says to Michael Jordan, is like, it's because I'm white, isn't it? Like, no, what are you talking about? Larry's white. Larry's not white. Larry's clear.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a great line right there. That's almost like, that's one of those lines, like, that's almost too clever for this movie right here. I can see, like, Bill Murray just ad-libbing that right there.
Oh, I bet you that's what it is, too. I almost feel like they throw Bill Murray and stuff in there just for, like, it's almost like a parent's character in there, because, like, what kid knows who Bill Murray is at that time when you really think about it? I mean,
I knew Ghostbusters.
Oh, I guess that's true. Ghostbusters.
So, but
I'll say really big movie that's, like, not like a rated R movie or something. Because I'd say like Caddyshack, but
even though it's not a kids movie, I knew and liked Groundhog's Day by that point. So
was that out by that point though?
I believe it was out by Space Jam. I want to say Groundhog Day was probably like 89 or 90, maybe 91.
I wanted to say that movie was late 90s, but I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure it's early 90s.
Michael Jordan's a pretty good actor, though. I'm surprised he's not actually in more movies.
There's actually, I saw this other one. There's that movie that came out, like, I think there was the other comeback they tried to make for the Looney Tunes, but it was just a horrible movie. That's come from someone that grew up loving the Looney Tunes. There's that Looney Tunes Back in Action movie with Brendan Fraser.
I do remember that one. Was he in that?
He had a cameo. There's a part where...
Groundhog's Day was... Sorry about that. Groundhog's Day was right before that movie.
Oh, okay. So I knew him from Looney Tunes. Sometimes I think of things that came out around that same time, and they seem so spread out. But I guess Pulp Fiction was right before, like, Looney Tunes, just right before it.
Yeah, because
right before Space Jam.
Space Jam was 96. Groundhog's Day was 93. Pulp Fiction was 94.
Oh, but speaking of Bill Murray and all that, there's actually lately Bill Murray's just been going around doing, like, pranks on people. Like, there's a couple that was just taking their, like, wedding picture. Or like pictures for their wedding invitations or whatever, and Bill Murray was behind him lifting his shirt up, like slapping his gut. Then like the photographer's like, oh my god, Bill Murray's behind. Like, oh look, it's Bill Murray. Like he says like, want to be in the picture? Yeah, sure. Stays in the picture. As soon as they turn around, he's off running. So he's just going around like pranking people like that. Like, there's also rumors. Who knows if it's true or not? But I wouldn't surprise me if it is. There's another rumor that Bill Murray would for a while he would just go to restaurants. He'd walk by someone, take a piece of some of their food, eat it, and people are like, hey, what the fuck? They look up and they stare at him, and he's just like, no one will believe you. Then he just walks off. Pretty awesome to reach that point. And that sounds so shitty and egotistical, but at the same time, it's it's Bill Murray. You can't stay mad at him.
Yeah, you got Bill Murray. Well, that's good that he's doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. But something, is that all you want to say regarding the Space Jams, or is there anything else regarding that?
I don't know. It was just a good time again. I just haven't seen it for so long that it was just going back.
I bet
to 1996. Was there a Space Jam basketball game?
For PlayStation 1.
There was, huh? I thought there was one, so who knows how good that was.
I remember I had some of the action figures. I had the Bugs Bunny, Michael Jordan. I remember some of the names of the aliens. Not all of them. There's Bus Cup. They had the weirdest names. Remember the purple one was called Bus Cup.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember. That's the only one whose name I remember. And there's the red. But I remember certain people were actually what was it? Certain people. I mean, I don't really know my basketball that well, but I know a lot of basketball fans at the time were like, what the fuck? Scottie Pippen is one of the aliens who has all that power? That's bullshit. A lot of people I was like, they probably can get whoever they can get for that movie.
Well, it wasn't Scottie Pippen, but they had
Didn't they have
Charles
Scottie
Barkley was in it. No, it wasn't Scottie Pippen. I think that's what we were thinking was when we were looking at that picture of the red one.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say something I forgot.
Charles Barkley.
Yeah, I don't remember the rest of I couldn't even tell you what the other guys' names were. It's just one of those ones not that much of a basketball expert. If they didn't appear on the cover of a video game, I probably don't know who they are.
I remember they had action figures of those guys too, though, and they're in the Toon Squad outfit as well.
Well, I remember you could get those ones. I think they were at Burger King or something like that, and they had the kind of they're almost like dolls because they're.
Yeah, no, they did have those, but there was actually I remember when I was a kid, because I love that movie so much when it first came out, they actually had official action figures in all of them. And there actually was action figures of the other guys who had their powers taken.
Huh.
And there's one of Michael Jordan golfing. All right, look, how many of these figures can we actually fucking sell? Just make several Michael Jordan variants. Fuck it.
Yeah, you just gotta have.
Kids are stupid. They'll fucking buy it.
They'll buy anything that's got Michael Jordan on it.
Mm-hmm. No, but anyway, something I got a little bit ago, and I know you'd probably find this interesting. We mentioned this a few podcasts back, and I actually stumbled upon it. I thought that this thing was probably canceled or because I didn't hear anything about it, but they came out with the graphic novel to the original adaptation to Star Wars. So
the original screenplay.
The original scrapplay, which is way different.
Adaptation. It sounds like somebody else was making a Star Wars picture before, George Lucas.
George Lucas, yeah. Lucas actually stole a bunch of shit. How about that? No. This is the original screenplay. I'm not sure how many liberties they took with it or how many things they changed around, but I read it today. I just got it, and it's different. I'm going to say this. It's one of those things, if you like Star Wars, definitely read it and pick it up, but there are some things this is definitely an earlier draft.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and I don't mean that just from things being different. I mean that for just plot points and all that.
Somebody could have just said this is how George wrote it. I'm not changing it because this is how it's supposed to go, and I'm just going to do it. That's how it's going to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not going to try to okay, well, I'm going to try to slightly correct it here.
It looks like a lot of the concept art you see from earlier editions and all. It looks like they're not trying to make it look. I'll say it really looks like the way the artwork looks. It really does look like an old 70s science fiction film.
Is it the one just called
Which I think that's
Star
cool
Wars?
It's called The Star Wars. Yeah, that's what it's called. And I'll say this. It actually, it makes sense because it's from the same guy. But it actually, you can see a lot of early episode 1 in this.
Huh.
Because I just take your mind out of what the of what we know of Star Wars. I'm just going to say the characters' names in the form of this, okay? So there's this one guy named Kane Starkiller, who's basically
Luke.
a Jedi. No.
It's not. Oh, that's not the one. It's Luke.
Nope. this guy named Kane Starkiller who has two sons.
Oh, no, that's like I know what you mean. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
One's named Anakin, and one's name is like Derek. In the very beginning, they get I think Derek or Deke or something. At the very beginning, it's almost kind of like there's scenes that are like I'm not going to tell the whole story, but they're like scenes that are like you could tell they're used in a different context, but he eventually used them. Like it's kind of almost a repeat of the Tusken Raider scene, and kind of like when Darth Maul attacks him on Tatooine and Phantom Menace. Basically, they're all hiding out because like the Jedi worked with the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
They were their own clan, but they worked with the Empire. And the Sith, they weren't really part of the Empire. They were just their own clan too. They were just two clashing clans. Now that the Empire, the Emperor looks more like the bad guy from Flash Gordon.
Uh-huh.
He looks more like that. And Darth Vader, he's not a Jedi, he's or a Sith or anything. He's just like some like evil general kind of character it's kind of like weird to see, like I'm just kind of waiting for Darth Vader to do all this cool shit. Be like, oh, he's actually basically General Tarkin. That's basically who he is in this.
Huh.
And he has kind of like a facial scar. He looks kind of like an evil Superman. He looks like kind of like Russian Superman, sort of, from Red Sun. That's what he kind of looks like.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
But give him like a red eye and kind of like a facial scar. So, But anyway, and then, so I'm jumping around here. So anyway, at the very beginning, they're kind of hiding out on some planet. This guy and his two kids, a Star Killer. One of the youngest kids killed, and then they kind of jump over to a guy named Luke Skywalker, who's basically Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he's almost kind of like a more pissed off, more bitter, like I'm not taking no shit kind of Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know? He's almost kind of like, and he has like
he's not kind of like more like relaxed, like we'll just get there. The Force will guide us.
I mean, he knows his shit, but he's almost kind of like, there's a part when Anakin fucks up, and he's all like, you're fucking up, don't do it again. You know, he kind of gets like bitter at him. Han Solo is actually an alien who looks like the love child of the Thing and Swamp Thing, pretty much.
Huh. Well, I do remember George Lucas talking about how he was originally an alien.
Mm-hmm. And pretty much a lot of stuff that happens throughout the trilogy kind of happens in this one story. It just happens a lot quicker, you know?
Huh. And now, is that just like Star Wars Episode 4 in a sense, or is that like almost like even a longer story than that?
I'd say it's about Episode 4. Pretty much Leia's still Leia. She's not really as well written. I'll say Luke Skywalker, who's basically supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi in this, he's actually he's like the best part of it.
Because for some reason I just wanted to say really quickly is I thought that George Lucas said that he kind of it was almost like he had this first script and then he realized, well, I'm just going to break this up into 3 pieces. So that's the only reason I asked that.
The book feels it looks kind of thicker for being a comic, but it goes by pretty quickly. So I'm going to say it feels kind of like one movie, maybe a 2-hour, 10-minute movie.
No, I'm just more talking about like story-wise. Does it feel like it gets into anything from like Episode 5 and 6?
No, well, like scenes, but not real. Scenes in a few moments, but not really the whole overarching story. It is very much kind of like they destroy the Death Star, the end, and the story only continues from here. Pretty much, it says. So who knows if they're going to come out with the next one? I'm wondering if he had like the script, because originally he said he planned like for a 6-hour movie, and then it made it into like one movie. Then like he's like, I'll just chop them up. So I'm wondering.
That's what he does. He chopped it up, which I guess that's kind of like you could take like the Superman script or Godfather and all that stuff. Like they were bigger at first, and they just split them.
Mm-hmm. Well, what happens here is he actually had like the main team in this is like Leia, Anakin, aka Luke. Then you have okay, this is gonna get confusing. Obi-Wan, you have Luke, who's actually, I guess, who would become Obi-Wan later on. You have Han Solo, and then you have this other guy named Whitson, or I think Whitson or Whiteson, I don't remember his name. And he's basically, between him, it's almost kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn kind of relationship that they had in Phantom Menace between him. He's almost kind of like a young Obi-Wan Kenobi from Phantom Menace, basically.
Huh.
He dies, though. He's kind of like the young Jedi who knows his shit. Oh, and here's kind of like the cool, here's like, you kind of see little things that will come in later, like Kane, the like Star Killer, the Anakin's dad.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, like he's all talking like, look, you got to train my kid. He says, oh, you train your kid. I'm sure he knows his shit. He's your son. Like, no, like you're the same. You're anything of the same man you used to be. And he like rips his shirt off, like, I'm not the same man. He's all like mostly robotic.
Huh. That's pretty sweet.
So it's kind of like, okay, so that's where they got a little bit of Darth Vader right there. And at some point they need like a part to like keep on going on. So he gives like his part, and like the only thing that's left of him, is just basically his head. So it's kind of like, this definitely does feel, I mean, you could definitely, it definitely seems kind of like Star Wars, but at the same time, it definitely has a little bit of like a 70s science fiction film. Even though I love I don't really think of it as a 70s science fiction film. It really feels like its own thing. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is about Star Wars is even when you go to watch today, they don't feel aged whatsoever. I mean, you can definitely tell it is an older movie. But if you just were sat down and you said, watch this movie, and it didn't show any dates, it would be pretty hard to pinpoint exactly when that was. I mean, if you did say if you didn't know anything about the actors, you didn't have any knowledge of that, you just sat down, you watched Star Wars, and it was all fresh, you would have a hard time guessing.
There is some stuff that seems kind of just slapped together, and granted, this is a rough draft, so I'm not.
I think probably the guy's just like, I just want to make it just the way it is.
And I understand that. I totally understand that. I'm glad he left it that way. Because basically at the very end, when like Leia, because what happens is after they get away from what's basically, I don't remember all the names of the alternate names of the stuff, what's basically Tatooine, they land on this planet which is basically Endor, but but instead of Ewoks, they're Wookiees, and that's where they meet Chewbacca.
Huh.
And from there, Chewbacca helps him out, and there's like an Imperial outpost that was posted there, and like, well, they just kidnapped Leia, so let's fly up there and save her. They basically teach in like, I guess in a matter of like 10 minutes, they teach these. This is where it seems a little too slapped together, but whatever. I took it. You know, it's Star Wars, so we give it a pass. It's especially a rough draft. In a matter of 10 minutes, I guess they teach all the Wookiees to fly these Y-wings up to like what's basically the Death Star.
Huh.
They have a big space battle for a second while I keep on getting their names mixed up, but I guess while Anakin is going to save the princess, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one Sith Lord that's in it. He's like a young guy. His name's Prince something, I remember, but he wears like this mouthpiece. And he's kind of like this young, kind of charming guy, but at the last minute he becomes not really a good guy, but he's kind of like, just out of honor, and because you're a Jedi, I'm a Sith, we're not going to die this way, that whole kind of thing. So he kind of betrays the Empire at the end to help him get out. So, So there is some stuff. I mean, it kind of goes by the same beats as the original, but it definitely does like feel like different enough to like. I say read it only if you actually like Star Wars. If you're a big Star Wars fan, read it, because it's kind of fun to look for little things here and there and little like, oh, it's funny what that will be, because there are certain characters that are like there's certain characters named like Mace and Biggs, and like Greedo was actually at one point one of the rebels. So just kind of small things like that you're really just kind of fun to look at and kind of like dig through.
Oh, that'd be a sweet one to check out. I'd like to read that at some point, because I think that's one of the coolest ideas, though, is when they take pretty much scripts that have either never been made in the movies or they're alternate versions and just use comic books to make it.
I think it's a good idea. I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner. Just now we're starting to utilize it.
Well, I think that concept of doing that's only kind of in the last, let's say, 10, 15 years. Because it seems like now you just kind of can find them, and like they're never advertised. You just kind of almost run across them in a store, and you're like, oh, dude, that's fucking awesome. They made this one, or they took a Kevin Smith movie, and they turned that into like the Green Hornet, and then what was the?
I'm surprised
they did Green Hornet and
Bionic Man, which I haven't read yet.
Yeah.
Which I'm surprised they haven't done. I'm surprised they haven't done his Superman scripts.
Well, there's a documentary coming out pretty soon based on that.
Yeah, and I really want to see that. I really do.
And the guy's he's like at the very end, he's just asking for more money.
Mm-hmm.
Which always just
I saw you post a link about it.
Yeah, I saw that. It came up, and I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. I'm like, I'll put a link up on that.
And I kind of see, look, it's one of those things. Tim Burton's made some great movies, and I do like Tim Burton. But just watching Kevin Smith and just sitting there and watching Kevin Smith explain, like, yeah, so what I was just like, I actually got an interview with Kevin Smith, and it's like, okay, cool. And you see Tim Burton, and Tim Burton, he's like just so much of just kind of like the parody of what people like. He's just sitting in a chair, glasses, hair, like, like waving his arms around,
Yeah, like he's talking about stuff, but like nobody has any idea what's really going on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, keep in mind, I love Beetlejuice. I love a lot of his work,
Yeah,
but
and I will
it
say I
is,
think he made one of the best movies of all time, Ed Wood. But still,
yeah, it's still kind of. I'm sorry, it's hard not to make fun of him.
But yeah, it's just he just does it to himself. He's
You
like a
brought
boy named Willie. He just kind of
a
sets himself
boy
up.
named
But
a
no,
boy named Tim Burton.
but no, yeah, it looks like that looks pretty sweet though, that movie. And I think what the guy wants to do is he wants to kind of make some like animated scenes that kind of show some of the action from the movie. I'm like, well, that's pretty sweet then. That
Well,
sounds
look
that
at the
sounds expensive,
concept.
but
Well, hearing what Kevin Smith was talking about when he was making the movie, it sounded like when he was working with what he had, and it sounds kind of like I don't know how this movie would have turned out. I mean, I know you can download the script for free and read it, so I want to do that someday. But
it'd be better if somebody made a comic book about it.
well, yeah. Well, it's a visual medium, and I think it'll be a little bit more fun to read. But it's one of those things, though. But after seeing some of the some of the concept art they salvaged up, I mean, I seen Nick Cage in the Superman outfit, and that's bad. I'm sorry, it's just bad. It's just kind of depressing looking. But everything
I
else,
like
though.
Nicolas Cage, but he is not built to be Superman.
Well, have you seen the picture?
Yeah, he's not that big
Oh,
though. You know what I mean?
he's not that
It
big,
just
and
looks like
he has this receding hairline. It just does not
well,
look
it looks
like
like
it
they
could
just
be.
pulled him off the set of Con Air and just said, "Put the suit on, take
Yeah,
some pictures."
yeah. So it's one of those
It's really
things like.
like I will say this: the hair part doesn't really bother me. It's just I just go like Nicolas Cage. Like, when did anybody watch fucking Nicolas Cage in a movie and go, "Man, that's Superman"?
That's the thing about it.
It
So I'm
just
not
sounded
really
like they
sure
picked him
how
up
the
because like
movie.
at that point that was like Nicolas Cage is popular and everything, and lots of
I'm
the
not sure.
popularity contest seems to outwin the does he look right for the role part?
Ghost Rider.
Yeah, well, I guess he got his superhero movie.
He got his wish. He got his wish because there were several times he was going to be a superhero, and they gave him the boot at the last minute. Which, I mean, I didn't really care for Ghost Rider so much, but it is one of those things, and I understand how much he wants to be that character. But really, Johnny Blaze looks like Kurt Cobain. That's how he looks.
Well, I can't think of really that many superheroes that look like Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
He could play somebody like the Riddler, or
Or he could even be like, I mean, not, I mean, all right, someone I think more suited for the role beat him to it, but he could be maybe like Jor-El or something like that. I think he'd be more like that kind of character, you know?
oh yeah, I think nowadays.
A good side supporting character or a villain. I think that's what he could probably be.
Yeah, I think he'd work well as a villain, but
Maybe even though the other dude, like, back then, probably, but like, even like, not, I wouldn't say, I forgot the actor's name, but Zod, you know?
hmm
Maybe a good Zod.
But yeah, like when you look at that picture though, it just looks kind of like really? Okay.
It almost looks kind of photoshopped. Like, he actually did this? Someone did this? Okay.
Yeah, it just looks like somebody had like a costume, they put it on, they cropped off their head and put Nicolas Cage on there from Con Air.
There's a website called Nicolas Cage's Everybody, and they just take. It's like one of those things like everybody just has one of those pages where someone just had way too much fucking time and just took Nicolas Cage's head and just put him on just different like photoshopped his head on the different people in different movies, and I just looked at it once because somebody sent me a link to it, and I just figured I indulged it, and I kind of chuckled because there was one of like his face on like the girl from Dirty Dancing as he's just like crawling up to like Patrick Swayze.
This guy's
and
so
that
creepy looking.
Yeah, it was just that song. It was that I remember like, baby, oh baby, that song that's in the dance to Dirty Dancing.
Uh-huh.
Like someone took a still shot of him just crawling, just like right before they kiss. Like it was just like this is so awkward looking, but you know, generally though, I looked at a few of those like, all right, that's pretty good, but a lot of them were just kind of like, all right, so you photoshopped this head, all right,
It's like oh, you
had a lot of
free
time.
yeah. Speaking of Nicolas Cage, I actually rewatched both the National Treasure movies recently.
I never saw the second one.
It's actually really good. It's probably just as good as the first one. It's got a little bit of kind of like the Hollywood, like let's throw the whole family in there now. But other than that, though, it's actually I'd say just as good. It's got Ed
Is
Harris
Helen
as the
Mirren
bad
his
guy,
mom?
kind of sort of.
Is Helen Mirren the mom?
Yeah.
Okay, who's the bad guy?
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris.
Oh,
Ed Harris.
Yeah, you know Ed Harris. He's like the other Red Foreman.
No, I know Ed Harris. I know Ed
I was
Harris.
just gonna,
I
like
actually
him and not Red Foreman. What do you call it? What's that guy's name?
I know who you're talking about. But
Kent.
yeah, he is.
Or whatever. But yeah, it's like the National because I was playing Uncharted. So then I was like, fuck, this is just like Indiana Jones. I gotta go back and watch Indiana Jones. So I watched myself some Indiana Jones, which some of them I don't think I've actually seen in a while. Like I don't think I've seen Last Crusade in a while. I mean, I've seen it so many times that like I pretty much quote it the whole way through. But just like Star Wars, watching it kind of not too recent, I probably haven't seen it in a good handful of years. So that was fun to go back to that. But then it was like, oh, okay, so I've watched, so it's like, okay, Indiana Jones. What else is like Indiana Jones? I'm like, oh, well, National Treasures, I guess, is like the next thing, sort of like an Indiana Jones. And then the other ones you got, it's like Romancing the Stone. And
so just all the, you worked
kind of
your way
like
through
those like
Indies, and now you're
adventure, like archaeologist type movies.
that are trying to be the Indiana Jones, basically. He didn't create it, but he made it popular, basically.
Yeah.
I think Doc Savage is what made it is like the original one.
Yeah, but
right?
there's original stuff before Indiana Jones. I will say that like National Treasure, it's like non-violent version of Indiana Jones because I think it's just because it's a Disney movie, so I can see these things in there. As you watch, it's like Nicolas Cage and his crew are never carrying guns or any weapons for that matter, though they're running into situations where everybody else seems to have a gun. You know, like the bad guys are the only ones with guns. I don't even think the police officers really have guns in that movie. Like it's got like that weird thing where like they almost kind of like
talk it out.
Well, like they sort of create, you know, villains by going like, well, you could tell who the villains are because they're carrying guns and they have bullets and they're from, you know, Eastern Europe.
Well, I remember there was like in the first one, Sean Bean was the villain, and there's
the blonde hair, the mullet.
Yeah, and did he have a mullet in that? I don't think he had a mullet.
Yeah,
did
he does. I mean, it's not like it's like a huge mullet. It's not like it's going down to like halfway down his back or something, but he's got kind of like longer than the ears mullet.
But there's this defining moment in the movie. It's the very beginning where it's just all very kind of like, he's a very nice guy. He's like, I know some things we can do. I've worked questionable jobs before, you know. They just quickly says like, well, I don't know. Maybe we should think this out. I pull a fucking gun on him. They just pull a fucking gun like on the nerd guy all of a sudden out of nowhere. It's like, oh shit. And then like, I'll give those movies a little bit of credit for actually finding ways around to get action scenes without guns. I mean, they're not like the greatest movies in the world, but still, it's kind of hard to create action scenes and tension without guns this day and age. I mean, they find ways around out it because he had to pull like a flare when they're standing around a bunch of gunpowder at the beginning, or there's that part.
He tosses it down. I will say, actually, you know, overall, I think they're actually pretty darn good movies. I mean, they are pretty Hollywood, but I still think for as far as a Hollywood movie goes, it's well made for what it is. You know, I enjoy the stories. The characters are fun. It's got, you know, a little bit of history in it and whatnot. But
there was I enjoyed them. They're not my favorite, but I enjoyed it. I never saw the second one.
Yeah, you should go see the second one. I'd say it's pretty much just as good as the first one. That's the one where like they end up being in Mount Rushmore, and I totally forgot the movie because I think I only saw it once in the theaters. Like I couldn't tell you anything about that movie prior to watching it again, except for the fact that I know that Nicolas Cage was in it.
Now, did you get that movie like on Netflix, or was it just like one of those movies you bought on like your like buy crazies when you went to like the pawn shop?
I bought National Treasure 1 a long time ago, like when it kind of came
out. Number two. Number two.
I got that one not too long ago from Kyle.
Oh, okay.
So it's like I already had both of them prior to this. It was just one of those ones like, you know, I'm sitting there like, what other movies can I watch? Something else I think I could watch too is like, you know what's kind of like Indiana Jones, but like a horror version is like The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, that one.
That's a good point. I think the first one's good. I enjoy the first Mummy, but the other two are all right.
Yeah, the first one's really good. The second one, I remember being like, it's still good, but it definitely has the Hollywood sequel feel to it. You know, and once again, it actually has that same thing too, where it's kind of got like, let's bring the family into it. You know, like one of those kind of ordeals.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I don't know about that one. It should be an amazing movie. It's got Jet Li and Brendan Fraser. And it just set up to be such a sweet movie, and somehow, some way, it's just, I don't know, I had a hard time getting into it.
Just the concept sounded interesting. Chinese mummies, that just sounded interesting.
Yeah, it's like there. Everything about it sounds like it should be a sweet movie, and then
that's the saddest thing when it's already done for you. You still found a way to fuck it up.
And I think also too is just like way too much CG in that movie. It's like almost everything CG in that movie except for the characters.
But you mentioned Ed Harris, which reminded me, I forgot to mention this, but I actually saw quite possibly one of my favorite movies of the whole year last week. There's this movie called Snowpiercer. Ed Harris is in it. He's not in it till the very end, but he's in it. This movie called Snowpiercer. It's a Korean-made movie. Not like 95% of it's in English, but it's a Korean movie, science fiction film set in like a post-apocalyptic future, basically. In an attempt to stop global warming, this sounds dumb, but the movie actually makes it believable. they shot some kind of atmospheric change thing in the air, which kind of like was supposed to like slow down global warming, but it just froze the world over. And as far as I know, the only people still alive are the people in this like train that is made by this very control freak, kind of like this William Randolph Hearst kind of guy, who we never see. But basically, that's kind of the vibe I got from him. Anyway, that's Ed Harris, basically.
Sweet.
So he doesn't look like William Randolph Hearst, but he came off that way to me. Just that kind of like, I'm a rich man who's like, you know, not really too like, I'm rich and I'm smart, but in other ways. I'm kind of oblivious to a lot of things. You know, that kind of way, you know?
Yeah, like I don't really care about people as much, except for my news.
Kind of like kind of like, well, here's the thing. Eventually when you meet him near the end of the movie, he is like, you have every reason to hate him, but yet just the way how he talks and goes about it, you just can't. You have every single reason to hate this guy, but at the same time, and really part of you does, but just because it's Ed Harris and the way how he's playing it, it's just kind of like, he just doesn't know. He just doesn't fucking understand. He's just that like numb to everything. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. This movie's awesome. So what happens is we kind of jump a couple years, or like 20 years or 18 years later, and all humanity, or what we know is left of humanity, is like carted onto this train. And it's a class. It's a story of haves and have-nots. All the poor people are in the back. All the rich people are up in the front. And the people in the train are basically, they're told to pretty much idolize the great engine, or the eternal engine, which is ran by the Ed Harris character.
Is this like a physical engine, like an actual thing, or is this like a metaphor of an engine?
An actual thing. They treat this thing like it's a god, basically. It's basically like, we all, you know, they're pretty much jamming propaganda down people's throats. Like, be grateful you're alive because of this, you know, very kind. In the movie, actually, even though it's a very dark movie, there are moments of kind of like this very kind of like dark, cynical kind of humor to it. Because there's a part, because basically they're like, all right, because all the people in the back, they're at any point, for whatever reason they want, the people from the front can go to the back and like just take them and use them and never bring them back. They don't know where they go sometimes, which that comes back around to the story later on. But sometimes, we need this guy for this job. He's coming to the front. He's coming with us. We don't care, you know? Mm-hmm. And they basically, people in the front get treated like kings. People in the back just get fed these little like jelly protein bars, and they don't really have. They're kind of living in shanties and bunks, and it's just all total shit. I'm not sure if I mentioned Chris Evans is the main character.
Oh yeah, you didn't mention it here. You told me that earlier.
Chris Evans, the main character, and pretty much what happens is they're just trying to fight their way through the train to get to the front to take control. And the one person they go to get on the way is actually, I don't remember the actor's name, but he plays the weird and the good, the bad, and the weird, as well as the serial killer in I Saw the Devil. And he's like, he constructed the train. He was like one of the architects. So they break him out of like the prison section, and he's a druggie. And they basically have this chemical. I think it's called cryo. They're in like, it's basically like this chemical residue people get high off of. It's just like, for every door you break us through, you get some of this. Mm-hmm. So they're just working their way through. People die, shit happens, but it's a totally awesome fucking movie. It's not like overly jam-packed with action. The action that isn't is cool, but it's just really creative, really awesome. There's actually one part where they go into like they cut through like the school branch of like the train, and you see their like at this point it's all like very nice. It's all very kind of like they're teaching kids how to, you know, they're jamming the propaganda down the kids' throat basically. And Alison Pill, who played Kim and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, is the teacher. And there's a part where like basically, so this is where like shit goes bad for a second. They're cutting through, and we kind of get a little bit of like, she's giving a lecture to the kids, and we get a little bit of backstory of how they got to where they're at, how the train's there. And they say, so kids, say the special chant, like, if the engine goes off, we all die. You know, these kids singing this song, kind of like that. So, and then at some point, you know, like, since the main good guys are in this cart at the moment, they have a switch around, and something you don't expect to happen happens. She pulled Allison Pill's character pulls out a machine gun and just starts firing into class at I don't think any of the kids get killed. If they do, I don't think they show up. It just starts firing at the characters right in the middle of this classroom. So the movie is really awesome. I recommend it highly.
I know. Too bad that doesn't show in any regular theater.
I saw it here. It got here's the thing. Because it was released by the Weinstein brothers. What happened? Because this movie, I'm not gonna lie, I won't spoil it as much as I want to talk about it. It's gonna be just a very one-sided conversation, so I just won't. But the ending is very dark. It's very bleak, but it's really good. And the Weinsteins originally wanted this movie's 2 hours and 10 minutes, and the Weinsteins wanted to cut it short. They wanted to cut 20 minutes out of the movie. And the director's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? That negates everything about this movie." And then had a huge public outcry against it because this movie was going to get a wide release. This was going to be a big summer blockbuster, but then the Weinsteins got pissed off that you don't talk to a Weinstein that way. Fuck you. It's getting a limited release. You already signed it. I don't give a shit. So, and it's I'm glad they didn't edit it out, but maybe but you can get it on video on demand, and that thing is actually that's actually kind of working out pretty good for them. It's not making like Transformers money, but the video on demand with this, it's actually showing that video on demand can make some money. So
no, I think the video on demand can work. I think for somebody like me who's like, I'm not gonna fucking pay to watch it on my PC,
no, I get you.
Because to me, it's that's I don't know. I always feel like when I'm on the computer, I really don't like the idea of paying for it. And the only reason I say that is because I'm already in a very uncomfortable area to watch a movie that I don't want to watch it on there. I'll pay something like a Netflix monthly fee if that's the case, but not for not gonna pay $12 for one movie just because of that. It's almost it's because the kind of
I understand.
The downfall of video on demand is it's really slowing down. I know with some movies coming out on DVD and Blu-ray because they'll release on video on demand and they think that's good enough, and it's no, put it on DVD or Blu-ray. Don't hold me off.
You could even buy it. You could even buy it right now too, digital copies, not a physical copy.
It's
I'm just gonna wait for the physical
regular
copy.
For some people it's they're totally fine with that. I don't know. Movies is one of those ones okay, yeah, I bought in some video games digital and I bought in some comics, but a movie's one of those ones I'm not too sure about that yet. Still at the moment, when Blu-ray and DVDs are still going pretty strong, I want to own it if I'm gonna pay over $10 for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this movie, I'm going to say check it out when you can because it's totally awesome. Hopefully, I'm not overly hyping it for you, but I totally loved it. If you need a selling point, if you're not really looking for a deep involved story, Chris Evans, Captain America, kills people with an axe. So that right there is enough selling point. The one of the poster is actually him just holding an axe with the engine behind him.
Badass.
Yeah.
Huh, I'll have to check that one out when it comes out. That looks sweet.
Mm-hmm. There's actually this part where it's one of the big fight scenes of the movie where they get to the door. They get to this one door and just it opens up and you see all these guys in black ski masks and knives and axes and chains just kind of guarding the door. And then they all charge at them. And then Tilda Swinton, she's in the movie. She basically plays the right-hand lady of Ed Harris's character. Mm-hmm. And you just hate her character so much. You hate her character so much in this movie, but she does a great job. And they're fighting off these guards trying to make their way through. But at some point, the guards all stop and back away for a second, and they all start smirking. What is it? They all pull these goggles over, we're going through a tunnel. Night vision goes on. And they all start so it's actually pretty brutal right there.
Well, sweet. I can't wait to see it. I mean,
but then luckily someone has a pair of matches to blind them for a second, so they get the upper hand again. So,
I wonder if matches.
It's very creative.
Huh?
What?
I wonder if matches would work well with the night vision. Would that be enough light?
Well, somebody has someone comes with the matches and comes running in with torches, and that's kind of holding them back. And they're oh shit, they're all blinded for a second.
Huh?
There's a month.
Well, yeah, I can't wait to see that one. There's tons at the moment right now. There's actually a ton of movies coming out. Pretty much all in a row, just this flow, because there hasn't really been too much in the last while. There's been a movie every couple weeks, it seems like.
Jupiter Ascending actually isn't coming out till January now. They pushed it back.
Oh, thank Christ, because there's just too much other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There comes that point where I'm just I'm glad if some movies get pushed back, just for the fact it's just there's They're just like over every week. There's something coming out, and then there's also a bunch of other sweet movies that I know for a fact aren't coming out to main theaters. But I don't know. It's just like from here on out, it's just like Hercules and Guardians of the Galaxy and Ninja Turtles and Expendables 3 and Sin City and something else.
The Rock is actually filming a movie down the street from me.
Oh yeah.
Not actually literally down the street, but down by Marina Boulevard, which isn't too far from me at all. I was riding by, and he wasn't out there, but they're like getting ready to film a movie. I ran up to like a grip and just said, "Hey, what movie are you guys filming?" I just saw like people sitting in makeup chairs and like wardrobe sets. He says, "It's a movie called San Andreas, and it stars The Rock." I'm like, "Whoa, really?" No. Yeah. And he says like basically The Rock saves California. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So
is there like a huge earthquake and he comes by and he puts his hands down and he starts bringing it together?
Let The Rock this shit out.
That'd be sweet. You should ask for a job when you're down there.
I should. Yeah. They actually. I'm guessing it's an earthquake movie. I'm guessing. I don't really know. I actually looked up the synopsis.
I don't know what else it would be. It's either that or it's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
I looked at the synopsis, and basically a helicopter pilot is going through a earthquake-ravaged California to save his daughter.
Huh. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
It could be good. Yeah. I saw some of the wardrobe looked kind of like dirty and mangled up, so I was like, "Is this supposed to?" I should have thought it out, but I just some of the wardrobe looked dirty and kind of messed up. So first thing I asked was, "Is this like a post-apocalyptic movie?" But then I'm like, "I'm standing in fucking Marina Boulevard."
So clearly
one of the widest fucking richest areas in the fucking town. It's like, oh, I maybe should have. The guy just gives this look, like looks around like. There's a bunch of sailboats over here. I'm like, oh, yeah, well. The Rock's in it. Like, oh, okay.
That's cool. That's enough to go see it.
Yeah. So I just saw dirty clothes, and I was just like, oh, this must be a post-apocalyptic movie. Clearly, could be nothing else.
Yeah, next time you drive by that guy, ask him for a job.
Yeah.
And ask him for one for me, too.
I will. Last time I rode by it, it was like at 7 in the morning, but I have to go by there another day, though, and check that out. Hopefully, they're still there. I haven't been there at all. That was like day before yesterday.
Huh.
Actually, shit, it was yesterday. It was day before yesterday. So yeah.
I saw that about 2 weeks ago. I wrote this down to talk about it, but then I guess time just went by. It was like when Johnny Winters passed away.
Johnny Winters?
Yeah, the guitar player from the 70s. He was in Edgar Winter Group and a bunch of other stuff. Blues player, kind of rock.
Oh,
he had
right.
That really white long hair.
I know who you're talking about now. Yeah, it took me a second. He passed away?
Yeah, he passed away. I think it was on the 16th by now in July. But whenever I think of Johnny Winters, though, I always just think of this story when me and Cisco were down in the town called Isla Vista. And the main reason I always remember that because it just sounds like it's like the fourth island of Jurassic Park. But Isla Vista is just like this little town. It sits next to what's the big town down there? I'm drawing a blank. Has a big school and everything. Above Los Angeles. I'm drawing a total blank on that. Well, whatever. That's not really the most important part of the story. But so we're in this pizza place in this town. This is the Isla Vista literally has almost not a single person over about maybe age 25. It's all college kids. That's all it is down there. And we were just down there because we stopped by one of my friend's houses down there just to hang out for a bit. And it was actually a pretty neat area. You could ride your bike everywhere. It was kind of weird almost how many bikes were there too. I mean, you would go to the beach and there was bikes washing up on the shore like they were dead carcasses. You would drive down the road and kind of like when you'd see a deer hit on the side of the road, well, there was fucking just bicycles on the side of the road, just all mangled up, and they were just left there. And it's
is there just a bike Xing as if it was a deer sign or something?
Yeah, you would see that. And so I mean, there was just so many bikes.
Just one lone bike with no rider crosses the street, stops in the headlights, hits.
Yeah, and then somebody just stays there, gets ran over about 10 times, and then it starts moving off to the side.
Just mangled to just shambles its way off the side of the curb.
So we were at this pizza place down there, and we ordered a pizza, and then we were like, oh, let's go back in line. We should get some drinks. Oh, okay. So we're standing in line getting drinks, and there's one old guy in front of us waiting in line, and literally probably about the only old person I saw there the whole time. I mean, this town, everybody was from age 17 to 25. Nobody was older, nobody was younger. And this old man, he turns around, he looks at me, and he goes, "You look like that Johnny Winters fella." And then he turns back around again. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like, Johnny Winters, great guitar player and stuff. He's like, yeah, that's right. And then we're just standing there for a bit. And then he turns around, looks at Cisco, and he goes, "I'm going to kick you in the fucking head." And then he turns back around again, and when Cisco looks at me, he's like, let's just go back and wait in line later. Let's just go sit down for a second. And we're sitting down there at the table, and just like, Cisco looks at me and goes, well, I guess that's what people think of me and you. They think you look like some guitar legend, and I just want to get kicked in the fucking head.
Well, I know you said the name of the town, but since a bunch of I'm guessing the guy probably thought Cisco was Jewish. That's probably what happened right there.
Well, I don't know. It's just like there was nothing said. It was just like, I'm going to kick you in the fucking head.
Because Cisco, he's one of those guys. I know he's Mexican, but he looks Jewish. So I'm one of the guys like, yeah, see me a Jew. I got my kicking foot ready. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds like that guy was totally out of place, though, for like a fucking, rich college town.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, Santa Barbara, that's the big school next to it, and I can't believe I can't remember that. But, yeah, I just thought that was the weirdest fucking thing.
Up in Tuolumne, I'd get that. Up in Tuolumne, I'd get that.
Well, he's probably like the one guy, like his family's probably been there for like generations and whatnot, and once all the college kids came by, they took away the jobs and everything else, and they set up Subways and fucking Hollister stores and whatnot. So this guy's just probably bitter at everybody.
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Yeah, he's just probably bitter. He's like, fucking Santa Barbara fuckers. Them and their education and money and rich kids and whatnot. So he's probably just thinking we were part of that same group too. And we're like, no, we just kind of showed up.
I still want to kick you in the fucking head. Except you. Play me a song, Johnny Winters. Play me a song.
I can't play it off the top of my head. What do you mean you can't? You're Johnny Winters.
Play me a song. I don't have a guitar on me.
Well, I'll kick him in the fucking head if you don't play me a song.
Watch. Boy, get over here. Step into my boot.
In the head for years now. What makes you...
Boy, walk into my boot. I ain't kicking. I'm too tired. You walk into this fucking boot.
Hold on. Let me take a bite from my pizza first. That pizza place is pretty good, though. I don't remember what it's called.
Wine combination. No. There's actually, regarding that, not regarding that, you said Hollister and I said Abercrombie and Finch, but I want to say this real quick. Did you know, this actually, I don't know, this just kind of like threw me off. I didn't know about this till a little bit ago. I haven't actually seen the store, and I have no intention of looking it up because I don't want that on my internet history. But there's actually an Abercrombie and Finch Kids.
Really? Just like, your kids can be douchey too.
Yeah. There's like, because somebody walked by one of the locations I work at. Somebody walked by with an Abercrombie and Finch bag, but it was kids. It was a kid. Abercrombie and Finch fit, and like it was like this kid with like this 8-year-old kid with gelled like like black and white, color palette. His hair like grayscale. His hair gelled back just perfectly, just like sculpted with this look of just intense, just the most intense look on his face for someone who is like 8.
Wow. Well, I could see that. They make the Gap kids. They make those other stores kids. Only doing time till that point.
Gap kids, I kind of understand, just because Gap, love it or hate it, that's just regular clothes. But Abercrombie and Finch, I guess just because they advertise themselves is just kind of like, even for being like a clothing line, most of their ads are just like a dude with a shirt off standing there.
Yeah, I know. Just like you go to the kids one, just like a kid with a shirt off. He's all kind of like ripped, just standing there like, what? What?
Some 8-year-old with a 12-pack.
My dad pays for private school. What about it?
Exactly. It's always just like, yeah, like so it was like, I'm just wondering, do they still walk, or would it still like smell like Axe when you go in there, or would it
they
be
spray you down like some like little fucking 8-year-old sprays you as you come by? You're just like, what the fuck?
They just have just like fucking little like, I'm just kind of, I want to know, but at the same time, I don't. I think I'm just gonna get irritated. I'm gonna get like annoyed with seeing where we're heading. But just Abercrombie and Finch for kids, and just are they still gonna be playing some douchey kind of like bro music if you go in there or something?
Well, it's not technically really like it's not a bro type place. It just reminds me of like the preppiest douchebag, like that type of douchebag, a preppy douchebag. Like the bro place is that one with all the motorcycle stuff in it. The what they call it, Tilly's.
Tilly's?
The one that I got that fantastic job where I was handing out flyers for like $15 an hour, like at a ginormous 2-mile long mall. And then we decided like nobody can fucking watch us. Let's just go watch Ghost Rider and Act of Valor and still get paid.
I thought Tilly's was kind of like a Target or something like that, or like a or Ross or something.
No, it's one of those mall stores. And it's kind of got, or maybe I'm thinking of a different one. Maybe that's not the one. Maybe Tilly's is the one where it's all skateboard oriented. As I said, they fucking gave us flags, and we just kind of went from there. We didn't really go inside. They're all kind of the same to me. It doesn't really matter which store it is. If you go to the mall, unless it's like Spencer's or like International Imports, or even like, I guess even Hot Topic, Hot Topic's kind of almost becoming similar to those things too.
Hot Topic used to just be kind of like, well, it used to be the goth store,
the
but
goth
now it's
punk
quickly
store.
become just like the internet meme / what are the kids listening to store.
Yeah, it literally is that now, and they all have a bunch of color in there and whatnot too, and less like
It's
black.
It really looks like, I mean, one part of the store, whenever I go in there, I just feel old. There's a time when I go in there, I'm like, oh, cool, Mario shirts. Oh, look, they got Soundgarden and Led Zeppelin shirts. That's cool. Now, whenever I go in there, I just feel old. Like, okay, that's cool. There's a Batman shirt. That's kind of neat. Then I go over this one wall, and there's just like all these cartoon characters I don't fucking know. And then there's like
And then some kid comes to you, is like, oh, that's from the internet. Did you see that video? And you're like, no, I don't. Fuck you.
a fuck ton. Then there's like a wall dedicated to Minecraft, and then there's like another wall where it looks like someone just vomited a rainbow.
Well, it's one of those ones when I was a kid going into Hot Topic, that made you feel young. You're like, oh, I'm with like the now. And then you go in there when you're older and you get in there and you're like, what the fuck is this place? You get what your parents felt like when they took you there back in the day.
Exactly. They're like, I'll wait outside.
Yeah, they're like, you go here. Here's $20. You go pick out the T-shirt you want, and Dad's gonna go wait out here.
And reflect on his youth and kind of in fear of where yours is going.
And as he's telling you this, he's looking the exact opposite direction the whole time, not even making eye contact with the store. He's like,
if he makes eye contact
with at what's inside.
If he makes eye contact with an employee, it will steal his soul.
I remember, like, in the South, like at that mall in Nashville, they had the most conservative-looking Hot Topic I've ever seen in my life. Like, even the Hot Topic sign itself didn't have the little fiery logo around it. It was just said Hot Topic and regular-looking writing. It was not really black. It was more kind of like grayish. Looked kind of like it was almost like from a stove. And then
you go in there and
it was the only time like I've ever seen employees that weren't like pierced and tattooed to the extreme with crazy hair and wearing the all black. They were in there and like the most amount of piercings they had is like, oh, the girl had 2 piercings on her ears and that was about it. Or she's
the music they're playing is like
the music was just radio rock. It was so fucking.
It was like Was it like Air Supply and like mid-90s Sting or something like that?
No, it wasn't anything like that. It was still like modern crap, but it was just like they were playing almost like pop music sort of. And like sort of like pop rock stuff. And like nothing in there. It was pretty well lit. It wasn't like dim dark color when you go in there. And then I mean they still had like, a lot of the same stuff, but it felt like it was almost like toned down a bit. It was literally a watered down Hot Topic. It kind of blew my mind.
The guy who had the mall, who owned that mall, like some like hardcore, like, because it was in the South, so maybe he's like, look, they can be here, they just can't be themselves. That's all.
It was one of the places like you literally went to that Hot Topic just to like buy T-shirts, but you wouldn't go there and buy chains and lighters and pants that have all these extra straps on it that you're really still never too sure what the fuck those straps are for.
He's like, we can sell to the freaks, but we can't be the freaks. So
you get that across now. This is my 2-mile-long mall. That was huge. It just blows me away because in California, you realize that like California doesn't have that big of businesses. Like a mall in California is tiny because I remember used to always hearing about those ones they have up there like in the north by like Canada and whatnot, and some of those ones have fucking roller coasters and shit in them. I was like, roller coaster? I'm like, our mall's got like 25 stores in, that's about it. There's nothing exciting. The coolest thing they had was an arcade, and they took that out.
I decided to venture down to the, it's there, so I never really been. I always went straight to the food court and left, but went to the main mall, Westfield, in a financial district down here, and that mall sucks. That mall makes me feel fucking poor, because all they have there is like really expensive like clothing stores, or not even Nordstrom. They have that, yeah.
I know that.
They got that, but I mean like really expensive clothing stores, and then just kind of like, Microsoft store, and then just, I was looking for like a bookstore or something. They didn't have any of that kind of shit, so.
They have a pretty big Hot Topic down there, because I tried to apply there a bunch of times, and then they're like, oh, you can go work.
Not anymore, they don't.
Oh, they don't have it anymore?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Because I remember going there, and I was like, You know, and they're like, oh yeah, but like, well, you could start off working in Daly City. I'm like, fuck that. That's not in San Francisco. I gotta take like a bus and everything there, or take the BART and whatnot. That sounds like work. I'm like, I just want a job.
Yeah.
You know, so that ended that really quickly.
Yeah, yeah, it's hot topic. No reason, just going too out of your way to get a job there.
Well, it's like one of those ones, like sort of like when you search for jobs, and it's like, why do they give you like a fucking 50-mile radius? It's like I don't want to drive that far. You know what I mean? If I'm working for like Sonic the Hedgehog, I'll drive there. But like, you know, other than that, though, fuck that.
I still haven't seen Sega. I've been looking around for Sega.
I want to say it is. I know I've passed it many a times. I want to say it's not really anywhere you would go on any regular day. It's kind of like down there in like the almost like the warehouse district. I don't know what else you call it.
Okay.
But somewhere that like unless you went down there to get your like fucking car fixed or something like that, you would never. Why would you go down there? There's nothing down there. There's no stores. It's just a bunch of office buildings and a bunch of warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
I know. You should go in there and try to get a job at Sega because you go online, they never have any fucking jobs on there because I've been searching for years. And they never post anything except for unless you're like, oh, are you a head, marketing agent? Have you worked at another business for over 10 years with this much experience and, sold like $10 million worth of product? It's like, no.
No, but I can tell you where you're fucking up on Sonic the Hedgehog. So.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
There's
I got
that
an idea there. It's like, but can I come down there and be the guy that wears the fucking Sonic the Hedgehog suit and runs around the office? Or like, there is nobody like that. Like, don't take that dream away from me.
That's all I ever wanted.
I know that's got to be there. Somebody's got to wear a suit the whole time. They're just fucking dancing and running and shit. Like, let me be that guy.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, like, at the Christmas party, they all take turns and fuck that guy. So in the suit,
it's fucking worth it. If I can be Sonic the Hedgehog, I can put that on my resume. It's like, what have you been before? Well, one time I was Sonic the Hedgehog for a year. It kind of ended at fucking New Year's. That was like the last straw, but it was great all the way up till that day.
Until that day, the greatest year of my life. I just see every day just some dude just like in a suit just running through the fucking office.
He has running as fast as you can.
Has like one of those kind of little like portable
big speakers and like the hat, just like Sonic speeds by Sonic the Hedgehog, and you're singing along to it, so you're like almost like out of tune and running
just
fast.
Running through the aisles, just running up and down the aisles as people are working, and they're like, "Man, the first week it was fun."
Carrying coffee, you fucking go and then you tuck and roll into it.
Just get up and you just run up the stairs. Like, how does he have the energy to do that all day? You cut to him in the bathroom, lifts the hood up, does like a huge line of coke, like starts chanting, like punches the mirror, runs out, does it again.
Except for this time you hop, like spin hops onto like the guy carrying the coffee once again.
Just has the 90s Sonic the Hedgehog theme on a loop.
But yeah, it's like I've been looking for jobs at Sega forever, and there's never anything there. But I feel like if I go down to the building and fucking knock on the door and be like, yo, give me a job. They've got to. Come on.
I say, look, you know that blimp in the Macy's Day Parade?
Somebody's got to hold that.
I paid for that before I was 14. Come on,
man. Come on. See, watch. I'll go to careers at Sega, and I bet you anything they'll be the exact same fucking ones that are always there that say, like, are you 45 years old and been working in business for the rest of your life? It's like, no. No, I'm not. Not Sega of fucking Europe.
Is it kind of bad now that I live here? I kind of sometimes when I walk around certain areas, I'm kind of looking like I actually ask myself, was this that one level from Sonic Adventure 2? Is it bad that I kind of ask myself that? Is that comparing San Francisco to a fictional city inspired by San Francisco? Is this where that one spot's supposed to be where the truck chases you down the street? You know?
Well, they do have. It's like I guess you could say Crazy Taxi 1's based off San Francisco, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't like San Francisco is definitely the level it's based off of in Sonic Adventure 2, the first level, I believe. City Escape.
Mm-hmm. It could be because that's where Sega of America is. So.
Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of walking. It's basically, I want to say that level. But from looking at it, I basically want to say it's North Beach in the financial district for the most part.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why I can't find Sega anymore.
Yeah, it has to be because that's where the cable car going down it, so it has to be around that area.
And there's not really like there's cable cars in very many cities.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of comparison for something that's not even fucking real when it gets down to it. So.
But it's just one of those ones like that.
A little bit of fisherman's warfare.
In my life, all I want to do is work at Sega at some point. Like that's like a childhood dream, and like Sega's never fucking like advertised a job on it. And somebody's getting the fucking jobs there. I just don't know how.
I just see you going there. Maybe you pull like a what was the chick? What was the name of the lady and Blade Runner who was the android? Sean what?
I don't remember what her name was, but I know who you're talking about.
When she was almost up for the role for Catwoman, she walked into like Tim Burton's office dressed as Catwoman. Maybe you could just try that. Just go up there dressed as Sonic the Hedgehog to like Sega. Like, look,
just fucking like lay there on the fucking desk, be like, yo, you know you want me? Just eating a chili dog through like the suit. I'm like perfect for the role. Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Oh,
come on.
You need someone.
Shaking. Come on, man. Come on.
Need someone to like boost the morality of your workers by just running through the office, trying to make sure they're just as energetic as me.
Well, here's Sega of America. It's on Rhode Island Street, which didn't make any fucking sense, but it's near the 101. It's near Whole Foods. Huh. Well, there's a bunch of Whole Foods in San Francisco, though. That's like what San Francisco's made out of. Them. Have you ever been to a Whole Foods before?
Yeah, it is.
Kind of worth going there. It's just like you look at there. It's like a Trader Joe's if it like everything was 3 times the price.
I'll say this: I only went there basically because one of the locations I sometimes work, there's one right across the street. It's like, okay, lunch. They're vegan donuts. I never thought I'd say this. Vegan donuts are really good.
Huh? They're probably still.
I know it sounds very contradictory. They're not good for you, but they taste really good.
Oh yeah, they probably taste great, but
yeah, incredibly good. But yeah, one of those things though. Just yeah, I don't think I go to Whole Foods too often just for how expensive it all is. Plus, there's no Whole Foods around me. I'm kind of like living in the one area where there's no Whole Foods. It's just kind of like right around the corner. I got a grocery outlet right over here, and that works just as fine.
Huh. Well, yeah, it's just one of those ones, like the Whole Foods, though. Once you go to a Trader Joe's, you're like, why the fuck would you go to Whole Foods? Plus, it just kind of seems to carry all, like, the rich, douchey people that just went to Abercrombie & Fitch, and then they're coming like, oh, I need something to eat now. No, probably more like guys who've been, like, they went to, like, the Men's Warehouse or whatever, and they're like, oh, I just got my suit pressed.
I still haven't really gone. I mean, I haven't really been into a Men's Warehouse, like, once. When I was looking to buy a suit for a wedding, it was empty, and the guy in there just had this look like, I've been here since 1983 and I don't want it to be here anymore,
And you're not going to like the way you look.
The suit, like, the suit stole his soul. You're like, look, I look good in this suit, but it was at a price,
So those probably are pretty sweet jobs because every single time I've ever been in a suit store, because Carlo used to always go to them and we'd just kind of like hang out. We'd just be like this, like if we went in there by ourselves, they would have just tossed us out instantaneously. But since Carlo was there spending money, we could hang out. But I just remember being in there, just like it never seemed like there was that many people in there at a time. It seemed like you were serving one guy, every like hour or two.
I wonder if they do get just this big rush. I mean, I'm guessing spring and summer is probably when they would. Or
well, you probably don't get a big rush. It's probably one of those stores where like when somebody comes in there, they spend $600 in one like fell swoop.
Well, I'm saying because like during wedding season, I guess it probably wouldn't be like
such thing as a wedding season.
Well, people generally, I mean, you can get married whenever you want, but weddings often do happen around spring and summer.
Huh.
Because it's just when it's more convenient for everybody and weather's nice and all that. So
yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Mm. Actually, pause this podcast for a second.
I can't really pause it, but what do you want to do?
I need to use the restroom.
Oh, okay. Actually, I can pause it. Well, Resume. Okay. I think that's resuming. Recorded started. Okay.
All right. What were we talking about?
Sega and the Sega jobs and Sega of America.
Well, what is a realistic like entry level thing you could have?
Well, like when I look at other companies in the area, because really when it gets down to it, when you're applying at video game companies, and it's like, well, I'm not a programmer. You're kind of like either it's animation or lots of them do actually have video oriented production. Because think about most video games nowadays, they're pretty much 2 things. There's programming, and then there's pretty much just video making / animation. That's really what it is. You're making a digital movie, and then you're programming it in together so that you can play it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the most simplest way to break down what a video game is.
Yeah.
But
you're still primarily, yeah.
And then I guess the other job there is kind of like the outside one. There's like the tester, but those ones seem pretty hard to get.
Yeah.
I've been applying those for many years. I've never gotten really anything from that.
I wonder what requires you to be a tester, because that's one of those things right there. Like, would you have to? I just really don't, because you just have to play video games a lot. Generally, you'd think, unless you maybe you'd have to. Would you still? I mean, I'm not saying you should, but generally, is it still something like they still want someone to go through like a course or something like game design, so you have a better understanding of how a game works? So you're giving like you're giving realistic criticism or whatnot, or
no, they never say that. The only thing they ever say is they always want you to have like previous. Sometimes some of them will go like, oh, you should have previous testing experience, which you see that on so many jobs, and I always kind of go like, well then.
Where do you start?
Yeah, who the fuck's going to give me that previous testing experience? And it goes with almost any job. Like, so many of them, they ask for all this previous skill, but it's like, well, who the fuck gives that to you? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I always wonder that. It's just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, you know what I mean? Clearly somebody's got to give you the job first and foremost.
Yeah. I don't understand it either. They're probably... Well, I guess I'm wondering... Well, I'm guessing right now, Sega, they probably got to be doing all right. I mean, I know they had some ups and downs, but right now, I mean, I'm going solely off of what I know what they're doing with Sonic, because Sonic has a new show coming out. They got that new game franchise they're launching, and then they have the movie. So I'm assuming that right now, unless every one of those things fails horribly, I'm guessing they're doing all right, or they have enough money to take a chance on something right now.
Yeah, well, they're definitely got...
Take a chance on the one thing that always brings them money. But yeah.
But yeah, it's just I just look at so many of those ones, just like I'm not too sure how you get in the door. It just seems like, and this goes with almost any job once again, is you almost have to like know somebody, but it's just like, well, where the fuck do you meet this person at? So I've always kind of wondered.
Yeah.
I always kind of liked when what's his name, Jeff Johns, like when he was on Fat Man and Batman, he just said he gave Richard Donner a phone call, and he just somehow somebody got to him. I'm like, well, that just sounds like luck. You know,
I don't know
if I went out
yeah.
and called 50 directors, I don't know what the chances of me getting one, but maybe that is the thing. I mean, what's his name, Brett Ratner? What he did, like to make his first little movies, he sent out. I think he sent to like 50 plus like directors asking them to like finance his little short movie that's on the Rush Hour. You can watch it. And out like a 51, Steven Spielberg sent back to him. So I guess if you do send out a lot to people, then. But then again, that was back in the day before, you know, kind of the internet and all that stuff. When, you know, Steven Spielberg is probably only getting a few of those letters like a year.
Francis Ford Coppola's like, you would not believe this fucking kid. He just sent me this fucking letter asking me for money. George is like, yeah, I got the same one. Martin Scorsese's, me too. Like, fine. And Steven's like, I'll be the one that actually sent him money. Just shut the fuck up, because I'm tired of having this conversation with you guys, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but there's just always those weird things. Just like with many of those jobs, it's like, how the hell does somebody get in there? You know, it's like the video game testing one too. It's like, where the fuck do you get that into that job? I've been looking at that one for, you know, over 10 years, and I never saw the exact way to get into that. But
I don't really know how you get it. That's.
I think the only thing you can do is you have to just go find somebody's house, and you have to like hassle them there. Sounds horrible, but I think that's the only way to do it.
I'm kind of wondering, like, I never thought of it, and I don't know how you get it. Probably this day, like, well, I guess Twitter and all that. I don't know. Kevin Smith, he seems like probably one of the easiest people you could probably talk to, because how sociable he seems. But at the same time, though, I mean, I don't know how easy it'd be to actually talk to him on the fucking phone. But he seems like someone who generally would respond through Twitter and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I started doing that too. I'm like, fuck it, because, you know, applying for jobs doesn't seem to work. So I'm like, maybe I'll just go like to the source and I'll ask people. They don't seem to respond back to you. You know, so,
have you tried Kevin Smith, just like curiosity?
Yeah, when he was doing Tusk, I was like, dude, I'll come crew with you. Like, when's that? And then nothing ever came back. I was like, well, where the fuck are you supposed to go apply for that once again? It's like, just send me a link. That's all I need. It's like, tell me the secret.
Then again, he's probably has a million people asking him that. But yeah, that's one of those
true.
things.
I mean, like, there's always that thing there, and I always just try to think past that. Like, I always go like, oh, I don't think about the million. I just try to think of like the maybe you can. Who's saying you can't be the chosen one?
I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just saying it's one of those.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones. Like, I've never been able to figure that out. It's like always the one of those ones. Mm-hmm. But who knows? But yeah, well, that's probably a good place to leave off at. Let's see here. Well, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And check out oldmanorange.com. Until then, we'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. If you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.